Hey there, how you doing? This is Rusty Nelson, talking watercolor episode 21, and wowzers, we have had a viral video in the last couple days. I think it was on Friday when my Loomis method tutorial dropped, and it was just an overview of the fundamentals of how to construct a face in some various positions, the straight on position, side position, and 3/4 view. And it was a really quick little video. I was just thinking that people were interested in maybe learning how to draw some faces and this and that. So it's not even a watercolor video. It's a drawing, a sketching tutorial on using the Loomis method. And that video went apeshit this last weekend. So I think I've had as many subscribers as it took me to get to about 2,500 subscribers in about 8 months. So it was a very big surprise and totally unexpected, and definitely goes to the whole notion of, it only takes one video to go bananas and kind of launch your channel into a new level of viewership. So I'm very thankful for everybody who's been subscribing and watching my tutorials, and those long-suffering subscribers who have been with me up to number, the 2,500 level. Thank you for hanging in there and watching with me, and then welcome to the new viewers. And this is Talking Watercolor. So I'm going to be talking Loomis drawing methods in this episode of Talking Watercolor. Mainly, it's still relevant. It is still relevant to watercolor in that you do need to know and have the foundation of drawing skills to be able to also translate those things over to working with watercolor. So it's not totally unrelated. It's definitely a foundation skill, which is why we have it in our foundations program up at the university that all the students have to take and learn how to draw and understand and observe and take that information and get it onto a 2D plane, and then they can be ready for the next steps. And when we start introducing the wet media and the color and all of that, so one step at a time. That's always the idea and the goal behind what we're doing. And what I want to do in this channel is to bring people into being creative, understanding the processes and the stages and the things that you have to do to assure that you're going to have some success at it, with the dedication and the persistence and the practice that it's going to require you to dedicate to that skill set. So, and again, like I've always said, talent is just somebody who has already spent the time learning and understanding and applying that. And then once they understand it, they can start using it in creative ways. And I think that was one of the things that maybe helped pop that video off as a viral video, and especially just viral for me. It's pretty much chump change probably to other creators out there, but man, it was a fun weekend watching my YouTube channel go bananas. But it's definitely, and plus I got a ton of really good comments from everybody that the new viewers, the new subscribers popping in and giving me some really good feedback and good questions concerning the Loomis method. So, and I wrote a few of those down. Here, let me make sure I have my questions pulled up. I can scroll through them real quick. So, all right. So, oh, by the way, welcome new viewers, new subscribers. I'm Rusty Nelson, and I am a university professor. Looking forward to the day of retirement, and I was starting this channel in hopes for this being something I can do once I retire from the university. So with that said, and everybody who's watched these things already, they've heard this. This is a broken record. So let's see here. Why? Well, all right. Let me back up a little bit. I'm so excited. I remember, when I came into higher education, I hadn't taught figure drawing the last time I had done figure drawing in the sense of how it's done in a classroom with a model and everybody, being nude and naked and all that. I did that in college, of course, and that's pretty much a standard thing for any art student to go through. But I myself hadn't ever taught it. So when I came into higher education as a graphic designer who could draw and paint, I was at some point finally tasked with the effort to teach a figure drawing course in a semester. And I remember trying to think back of, gosh, what did we do other than, go in with a model in front of you and just start drawing. And I was trying to remember any instruction that we might have gotten. And if I remember correctly, and this could be a distorted memory, but I don't recall a whole lot of instruction on how to draw the figure. So it really came down to me trying to figure out, what processes I typically do. And I've always been working with figures since college and moving into my professional career. But typically I would find reference and then maybe do a quick sketch, a tracing maybe even to get the pose right and this and that. And then if I had to modify clothing, this and that, I would do it from that initial tracing. But once I was in that class having to teach it, I had to remember, and the first few times I taught the course, it was really pretty rough in that, I gave some really very vague instruction on how to do it. So a lot of gesture drawing. I remember we did go through a lot of gesture drawing and those little elliptical shapes where a thigh might be or this and that. And it was really kind of happenstance and unreliable in outcomes. So I definitely started working on a task of trying to find a way to teach figure drawing that the students could understand and then would give them a good result. And it finally did lead me, that effort, that research into what would work led me to the Loomis method and discovering Loomis and what he had figured out, 80 years ago, back in the 40s and even earlier. I think he was an illustrator who went into higher education and really brought his skills that he used as an illustrator, painting and drawing people, and put that all into his books. And they're wonderful books, wonderfully illustrated by himself as well. And they're just a great resource, but it's extremely dense. I mean, he went into minute detail on all the heads, the hands, the feet, the figures, and this and that. And there are a lot of other methods that you can use to build upon Loomis method as well, especially when you get into drawing figures. There's other means of creating torsos and this and that. You got to find the rhythm line through the figure. You can block it in with like a chest cavity and a hip cavity. If you can get those angles all correct and perspective on the rough shapes, that you can then begin to construct a figure. And I did discover while using the Loomis method and teaching it to the students, tendencies, and everybody's going to have their own tendency as to what they'll do. I have a tendency to elongate. I should have been a fashion designer, I think, because I tend to, and it's all proportion. I just have my figures out of proportion. So I'm always fighting to try to keep and adjust my figures to keep them in proportion properly. But that's okay. It can be a stylistic choice as well. You might want to distort the figure and do things. And a lot of comic book artists and graphic novelists, and boy, I tell you, anybody, if you want to see anybody who can understand the figure really well, it's comic book artists, it's the graphic novelists, and it's the animators that can really, really draw a figure in any pose. And there's tons of really good animators, graphic novelists, and comic book artists who have channels, and I've watched hundreds and hundreds of hours of their tutorials to see their processes as well. And then plus they're all digital now. I've been doing my stuff, for watercolor and this and that. I'm still translating it. So it's interesting. I'm watching digital artists do the processes, and then I'm going back to a traditional method. And I've worked digitally as well. I just haven't found the rhythm, the groove, the love in digital painting. I can do digital drawing just fine. That's not an issue at all. But digital painting's definitely a beast I haven't wrestled with enough yet to feel comfortable with. But the drawing part's the same on digital, on tablets, as it is with paper. I don't see much difference there. So I don't have any strong preference one way or the other unless it comes to, when I want to create a watercolor. I don't think of a tablet first. So it's typically, let's get some paper out and start slapping some paint onto the paper and see where it goes. So anyway, that's kind of, boy, I've definitely been on a fast ramble. It's already 10 minutes in. Let me look here. Any other fun? Oh, let's see here. I think a lot of the comments was that the tutorial I did, it was 3 faces, or as a straight-on view, a profile, and then a 3/4 view of the head. And the comments I was getting, I was making it look, I simplified the Loomis method to where people could understand it. And that's really, that's a good observation, because, yeah, I'm not trying to pour everything I know, and everything I know isn't necessarily based on Loomis either. It's a lot of experiences as well. So I've taken a lot of some of the basic things from Loomis, and I've taken just what I need to be able to construct the heads and stuff. And like I said in the tutorial, I'm not a portrait artist. I catch a likeness, every so often with my drawings, and especially when I'm drawing in class with my students. I can catch a likeness of the student out there every so often. I manage to get all the positioning and the measurements nailed pretty quickly, but I don't necessarily use calipers like a true portrait artist or whatever. I'm not measuring it that minutely. It's definitely more of a feel and eyeballing it. So yeah, but it's a lot of fun. I don't care whether or not my piece of artwork that I'm using and creating using the Loomis method looks like that student or not. Nobody's ever going to know what that student looked like ultimately, because I wasn't doing a portrait. So anyway, that's a whole nother next level skill set, but hopefully I can give you enough information with the Loomis method to get you up and running and practicing. And that's really what it's all about, is just get in there, practice, do a sketch, try another one. And I'm going to be dropping some tutorials this coming week. I'm going to try to get another couple watercolors done, get those posted, but it seems like there's a lot of pent-up desires for some more Loomis sketching techniques. So I'm going to do a few more of those, and I'm going to do some figures as well. So I'll do some static figures, break down the Loomis method as the basic concepts behind it, and then start doing some tutorials on how to apply it to a pose, a figure, whether it's a static pose, somebody just standing. How do you see where the weight is being carried through the figure with a rhythm line, and then creating that armature, that structure that you build everything. And that's really all Loomis is a structure. It's the foundation for the drawing that you're going to be creating of that person or that pose that's in front of you, whether it's in a photograph or it's a live person. So that is a lot of practice, and it's not easy. You're gonna have to tackle one problem you're having at a time with this process, and I will make it look easier than it really is. But that's because, one, I've taught it for like 20 years now, and I've just always drawn a lot of people as well, so I have a lot of experience doing it. So don't give up. Just get in there and draw and sketch and doodle a lot as well. You can even just practice your armatures, your mannequins. I guess Loomis calls them mannequins. So it's essentially an elaborate, well-proportioned stick figure that if you get that pose right in the stick figure, you'll be able to then layer on the muscle, the mass, and the details. And I think one of the biggest problems students have with drawing people is they tend to try to draw people via the contour, the outline, or their shape, right? But there is a good technique starting with a silhouette that you can use. That's a whole other technique that we'll maybe explore later on. So, hey, you know what? I've been talking for right at 15 minutes or a little over, and I have so much more to say, but I'll be saying it in some of my tutorials. So make sure you keep an eye out for those tutorials to drop on the drawing and the sketching. And I promise I'm going to get some more watercolor tutorials done as well. School's back in session. I'm starting to hit my groove with what's going on, doing my classes, trying to keep up with grading, and then doing my YouTube tutorials during the afternoons when I have a few moments. So, hey, I really do appreciate the attention I've gotten in this last video. I'm glad you're here. Thanks for watching and joining my channel. I really do appreciate it. And please give me a like and a subscribe if you're getting any value out of these tutorials. I really do like that. And it's oh man, it's making me so happy. So thanks again, and I'll see you next week talking watercolor.